This photo shows a powerful vision of how the pyramids may have been built, but honestly, the real story is even more unbelievable. From forbidden photos and hidden chambers to lost technologies and suppressed theories, we're uncovering the secrets Egypt never meant to share. Archaeologists exploring an ancient alabaster quarry stumbled upon something unexpected, a 4,500-year-old ramp system carved directly into the stone. Not just a simple incline, but an engineering layout that looked oddly advanced for its time. A central ramp flanked by 2 staircases, each lined with rows of post holes. This wasn't built by chance. The layout suggested a system where ropes and wooden posts worked together to pull huge stone blocks up steep slopes, a method that could have reduced the need for endless slave labor and thousands of workers dragging stones across the desert floor, like in those tired Hollywood scenes. These ramps weren't aimed at building the Great Pyramid itself, but they were dated to the same era and clearly designed to move large blocks of heavy stone, the kind used in massive projects like pyramids. What's striking is how steep the incline would have been. Experts say it was far steeper than what was previously believed possible in ancient construction. That raised eyebrows. Some researchers whispered that this wasn't just clever engineering. It might be evidence of a construction system so effective it was deliberately forgotten, buried under centuries of sand and silence. And that's where the theory deepens. Why hadn't anything like this been found near the Great Pyramid before? Was it destroyed? Hidden? Or was it never there because the true method was something else entirely? Something so unconventional that the ramp was only one part of a much broader, more secretive method. Some believe the ramp system connects to a broader idea that the Egyptians might have combined basic mechanical principles with now lost materials, lubricants, or even resonance techniques. There's even quiet chatter among fringe theorists about vibrational lifting and anti-gravity experiments, the kind of topics that usually get dismissed outright. Still, even respected Egyptologists admit that this find challenges the idea that only brute strength and manpower were responsible. One of the most overlooked ideas in the pyramid construction debate is also one of the most practical. What if the ancient Egyptians didn't just rely on brute force, but on clever mechanics? Simple machines arranged in smart ways. The mechanical lever theory suggests they might have used a combination of levers, pulleys, balance systems, and counterweights to move massive blocks with minimal manpower. This isn't about modern machinery or advanced technology. It's about physics and the possibility that the Egyptians had mastered the kind of practical engineering we still rely on today, in cranes and forklifts. Think of it this way. Even the heaviest stone loses much of its weight if you use a long enough lever and a strong enough fulcrum. Add a few well-placed ropes, wooden rails, and pivot points, and you're no longer dragging stone, you're steering it. The theory proposes that multi-ton blocks could have been walked into place using lever arms and coordinated lifting, or even lowered into position by carefully controlled counterweight systems. In controlled trials by modern engineers, small teams have used simple replicas of these tools to lift multi-ton stones with surprising efficiency, no need for thousands of men or supernatural strength. There's even speculation that the pyramid's own steps were part of the process. As the structure rose layer by layer, workers could have lifted stones from one level to the next using pivoting levers and gravity-assisted shifts. It may sound slow, but it's repeatable, scalable, and incredibly effective. So why isn't this idea more accepted? Maybe because it lacks the visual drama of slaves hauling blocks across the desert, or aliens descending with anti-gravity rays. But Occam's razor leans toward simplicity, and if this theory is right, the real marvel isn't some lost civilization with advanced tech. It's that the Egyptians solved a colossal engineering problem using basic materials and sharp minds. The levers may be long gone, but the logic remains. Maybe the pyramids weren't built with force, but with finesse. Just beyond the towering grandeur of the Great Pyramid lies something far less glamorous, but maybe even more revealing: the ruins of a vast workers' village known as Hayt el Ghurab. Buried for thousands of years and only uncovered in recent decades, this dusty sprawl of mud brick buildings is turning the old pyramid building story on its head. We've all seen the same old image lines of beaten down slaves dragging stones through the sand, building the pyramids under the whip. But the evidence found here paints a different picture. Archaeologists unearthed bakeries with industrial-sized ovens, storage rooms, and living quarters that weren't just functional, they were planned, structured, and maintained. It looks less like a labor camp and more like a highly organized workforce base. Thousands of people. Feeding schedules, water systems, medical supplies. This was a city with a purpose. In one section, the remains of a butchered cow suggest that pyramid laborers were eating surprisingly well beef, fish, and even dates and bread. Their diet was better than most common people at the time. These weren't starving slaves. They were skilled workers, masons, engineers, cooks, each with a role in something much bigger than themselves. And yet, despite the proof, the myth of slave labor persists. Maybe it's just a more dramatic story, but the reality may be even more incredible. These people weren't just working for a paycheck or out of fear. Many probably saw it as a divine duty, a sacred job that connected them to the gods and their pharaoh. Even more curious, some of the tombs nearby, believed to belong to foremen and senior workers, are carved with respect. They show pride, craftsmanship, and even family lineages. These weren't nameless laborers, they were remembered. The city itself had streets, districts, and planning a blueprint for how to build something as complex as a pyramid without descending into chaos. So, while the pyramids may be the monuments we see, Hayt El Ghurab is the ghost city that powered them. A place hidden in the shadow of history's greatest stone mystery. At the very tip of the Great Pyramid, something crucial is missing. What was once the crowning point of the structure, the capstone, is gone, and no one knows exactly when or how it disappeared. What we do know is that this final piece wasn't just decorative. It held symbolic and possibly functional power, and according to ancient accounts, it may have once gleamed with gold. Today, the top of the Great Pyramid is flat, roughly 30 feet across, with no sign of its original point. Early travelers wrote of a shining apex visible from miles away. Some even claimed it reflected sunlight so strongly it could be seen like a beacon on the horizon. If true, that would suggest a capstone plated in electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver, both sacred metals in ancient Egyptian culture. But where did it go? And why are there so few records of it? Photos from the early 20th century show the flat summit, already stripped. There's no capstone in any museum, no solid remains of it buried nearby. Some believe it was removed long ago by treasure hunters or crumbled during an earthquake. Others suggest it was never fully placed, either due to engineering limitations or last-minute decisions during construction. Then there are the theories, the ones that say the capstone was never ordinary at all. Some fringe researchers believe it may have served a function beyond symbolism, possibly acting as an energy conductor, part of a larger system that's been lost to time. Sound far-fetched? Maybe, but the absence of even fragments continues to puzzle experts. For a civilization obsessed with preserving the afterlife in stone, the complete disappearance of such a vital element is more than a little strange. Inside the Great Pyramid, narrow channels snake their way from the so-called king's and queen's chambers out toward the sky. Officially labeled as air shafts, these passages are too small for a person to crawl through, and their real function remains one of the pyramid's most enduring mysteries. But some researchers believe they point to something far more cosmic, a celestial map carved in stone. Each shaft is angled precisely, and modern measurements show that they line up with key stars in the night sky, or at least they did thousands of years ago. The northern shaft from the King's Chamber is aligned with Thuban, the ancient North Star at the time of the pyramid's construction. The southern shaft aligns with Orion's Belt, a constellation closely associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Coincidence? It's hard to believe. These aren't random tunnels. They're deliberate, targeted, and angled with such precision that many believe they were designed to channel something, whether it was spirit, energy, or just light. One theory suggests the shafts served as a kind of spiritual ladder, guiding the pharaoh's soul to specific stars. In the ancient Egyptian belief system, these celestial bodies weren't just lights in the sky, they were gods. And aligning the pyramid with them wasn't decorative. It was sacred geometry in its purest form. What deepens the mystery is that the Queen's chamber shafts don't even reach the outside. They stop short, sealed off by stone blocks. When tiny robotic probes were sent into these passages, they discovered a hidden door, and behind it, another chamber no human had ever seen. What's behind that door is still unknown. Some say it's nothing. Others believe it could hold keys to the pyramid's original purpose. Whatever the truth is, these shafts prove one thing: the builders of the Great Pyramid weren't just stacking rocks. They were reaching for the stars, and they may have known far more about the heavens than anyone expected. In the heart of the Great Pyramid, above the so-called King's Chamber, lies something no explorer ever expected, and no one has seen with their own eyes. In a stunning breakthrough, a team of scientists using muon scanning technology discovered a vast, unexplored void buried deep within the stone structure. It's a space larger than any other chamber in the pyramid, and it appears to be completely sealed off from all sides. This discovery wasn't made with shovels or drones. It was revealed by cosmic particles, subatomic muons that pass harmlessly through stone, allowing researchers to see inside the pyramid without disturbing a single block. The project, known as scan pyramids, confirmed the chamber's existence in multiple scans, ruling out measurement errors. What they found was a cavity at least 100 feet long, sitting directly above the king's chamber where the pharaoh's sarcophagus rests. The purpose of this hidden space? Still a mystery. Some think it's simply a structural void, relieving pressure from above. But that doesn't quite match the size or symmetry. Others suggest it could be an undiscovered passage, or even a hidden room filled with ancient materials, scrolls, or objects buried by the original builders and untouched for over 4 millennia. What's strange is how quiet the official response has been. Despite the global attention, no expedition has been launched to physically explore the space. No plans for a drill, no probes, just silence. That's led to plenty of speculation. Some whisper that the chamber has already been explored in secret. Others believe it contains knowledge considered too dangerous or too disruptive to share. The truth is, this chamber is real. It exists. It's been confirmed with modern science. And yet it remains completely out of reach, a perfectly preserved mystery locked inside the world's most iconic structure. As of now, it's a sealed room inside a sealed monument, waiting for someone brave enough or curious enough to open it. Tucked away in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, there's a slab of stone that almost no one talks about yet. It may hold one of the most explosive claims in Egyptology. Known as the Inventory Stela, this weathered artifact casually states that Pharaoh Khufu didn't build the Sphinx. He merely restored it. That statement alone, honestly, throws everything into question. According to mainstream history, Khufu ruled during Egypt's Old Kingdom, around 2600 BCE, and he's the one credited with commissioning the Great Pyramid. The Sphinx, believed to represent his son or his reign, is generally dated to the same period. But the Inventory Stela says otherwise. It describes the Sphinx and a nearby temple as already ancient in Khufu's time. That would push the Sphinx's origin back by thousands of years to a time before Egypt even had a written language. The stela doesn't look like much. It's small, chipped, and dismissed by many scholars as a later forgery or ceremonial inscription. But even if it was carved centuries after Khufu, it could have been based on older oral or written traditions that were still alive. And that's what makes it so interesting. It's a quiet contradiction to the official story one hiding in plain sight. And the idea that the Sphinx is older than the pyramids isn't limited to this artifact. Geological studies of the Sphinx's body show patterns of erosion more consistent with rain than desert winds, suggesting it may have stood through a much wetter era long before recorded history. No one's rewriting textbooks yet. But the Inventory Stela remains in the museum, behind glass, quietly challenging the entire timeline of ancient Egypt. Whether it's a misinterpretation, a forgotten tradition, or a suppressed truth, it opens a door to a past that may go deeper and much older than we're taught to believe. Beneath the Giza Plateau, not far from the Great Sphinx, there's a place that even many visitors to Egypt never hear about. It's called the Osiris Shaft, a deep vertical tunnel system that descends into total darkness. What lies at the bottom has stirred endless curiosity, a series of underground chambers, one stacked beneath another, leading to a final room submerged in water. The entrance to this shaft is discreet, almost hidden near the causeway that connects the Sphinx to the Pyramid of Khafre. From the surface, it looks like little more than a hole in the ground, but descend inside as a few researchers and tour groups have, and the structure reveals its true scale. The shaft drops over 100 feet, with multiple chambers carved into the rock at varying depths. Wooden ladders now assist in the descent, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Air gets thinner, walls grow colder, and the silence feels unnatural. The lowest chamber, always partially flooded, contains a massive granite sarcophagus in a surrounding moat, cut with eerie precision. No human remains have ever been found inside, and no clear explanation has ever been given for what the space was truly for. Officially, it's described as a symbolic tomb dedicated to the god Osiris, the ruler of the underworld. But that interpretation only adds to the questions. Why build such a complex structure underground, where it couldn't be seen or visited easily? The depth and craftsmanship suggest it wasn't a random burial site. It was planned, engineered. Some have speculated that it served as an initiation chamber, a place of spiritual transformation, or even as a concealed vault meant to preserve something important through ages of turmoil above ground. Then there's the location. The shaft sits almost perfectly in line with other mysterious features around the Sphinx and pyramids, adding to theories that Giza's monuments were part of a unified system, something more than just tombs. Whether it was a temple, a trap, or a tunnel to secrets we've yet to uncover, the Osiris shaft remains one of the most physically real and strangely ignored enigmas on the plateau. It's one of the strangest and honestly most persistent alternative theories out there, but the more you look into it, the less ridiculous it starts to sound. What if the Great Pyramid wasn't a tomb at all? What if it was a machine, more specifically, a massive hydraulic pump designed to harness water pressure? This theory, which was once dismissed outright, is now gaining interest among engineers and independent researchers. It's built on a curious observation: the internal structure of the pyramid, especially the Grand Gallery, kind of resembles certain mechanical components used in fluid dynamics. Add to that the strange airtight construction of several chambers, and the existence of narrow shafts that may have been part of a pressure system, and, well, the pyramid starts to look a lot less like a burial site and more like an engine. One version of the theory suggests that water from the Nile, or maybe from natural aquifers below the plateau, was channeled into the pyramid. As pressure built within a sealed series of chambers, it could have forced water upward through the pyramid's interior, possibly as part of an ancient irrigation system, or, something even more complex. The result? A machine that pulsed with the Earth's rhythms, cycling water through stone, perhaps for ritual, energy, or preservation purposes. Supporters point to mysterious corrosion marks on granite walls deep inside, suggesting past exposure to water. Others highlight the so-called void discovered by the Scan Pyramids project as possibly part of this system a pressure chamber rather than a hidden tomb. Still, it's not a theory that official archaeology is quick to endorse. Suggesting the Great Pyramid wasn't just a tomb but a machine built on principles we still don't fully understand? That would rewrite a huge part of accepted history. And yet the architectural evidence, the precision, the sealed design, the layout doesn't rule it out. If true, this would mean that what we think of as a symbol of death may have been something entirely different. Not a monument to a dead king, but a living, breathing system that once harnessed the power of the earth itself. In the shadow of Egypt's most famous pyramids sits a crumbling monument few ever hear about: the Black Pyramid of Dashur. Unlike the clean, angular lines of Giza's monuments, this one looks like it's sinking into the desert, as if time itself just rejected its existence. Built during the Middle Kingdom by Pharaoh Amenemhat III, the Black Pyramid is one of the earliest attempts to construct a true pyramid, entirely out of mud brick and clay instead of solid stone. And, well, it didn't go well. From the outside, what remains is a jagged, sunken mass of dark rubble. But in its prime, it was an ambitious structure with polished limestone casing and an intricate inner network of corridors and chambers. It was also one of the few pyramids designed to house both the pharaoh and his queen. A rare dual burial pyramid, packed with symbolism and careful geometry. And yet it began to collapse almost as soon as it was finished. So why risk such an unstable design? Some believe the Black Pyramid was an experiment, a bold move away from traditional pyramid building that simply didn't hold up. Others suggest it was a rushed construction, built on soft, shifting ground, with poor materials chosen to cut costs or finish quickly. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite its structural failure, the Black Pyramid still included elaborate defense systems, trap chambers, and complex passageways, features that would have been useless in a building destined to fall apart. Why would the builders go through all that trouble for something that couldn't last? Some theorists claim the collapse wasn't accidental, that the pyramid's instability may have hidden deeper chambers that remain sealed off today. In fact, much of the site is still off limits to the public. And though fragments of the capstone survive, no one knows exactly what's buried underneath. Even with its broken shape and decayed body, the Black Pyramid continues to guard secrets in the sand. largely ignored by textbooks and tourist brochures. Hidden between Giza and Saqqara lies one of Egypt's most restricted and least understood sites, the Pyramid of Zayat el-Aryan. Unlike its more famous neighbors, this one doesn't draw tourists or make it into documentaries because it's completely sealed off, buried inside a military zone. No public access, no excavation teams, just a cryptic pit surrounded by rumors, speculation, and, well, barbed wire. From what little is known, the structure was started during Egypt's third dynasty, possibly under Pharaoh Nebka. But calling it a pyramid is a stretch. The only visible feature is a massive rectangular shaft carved directly into the bedrock. The pit is over 80 feet deep, perfectly cut, and lined with granite blocks so precisely placed they seem machine-cut. In the center, there's an enormous polished granite basin. Some say it resembles a sarcophagus. Others believe it had a far more technical purpose. And here's where it gets weird. No inscriptions, no carvings, no cartouche, nothing to officially connect it to any known pharaoh or burial. The bottom of the shaft is flooded year-round, obscuring what lies beneath. Some reports from early explorers claimed they saw evidence of additional chambers or tunnels, but no one's been allowed close enough in recent decades to verify anything. The area is now under full military control, supposedly for national security. But that's only fueled the theories. Some believe the pyramid was never unfinished, that it was deliberately buried or abandoned for reasons still unknown. Others speculate it was part of a secret network of structures with advanced functions, including energy storage, underground passageways, or pre-dynastic technology lost to time. Satellite images of the site show odd anomalies in the surrounding terrain, possible foundations of other structures, now lost under sand and secrecy. With no ongoing digs, no press coverage, and no formal research, the Pyramid of Zayat el-Aryan remains one of the most mysterious spots in Egypt. A forgotten monument walled off from history. Some say it's just another failed construction. Others believe it's a locked door to something we were never meant to find. That's about it. Share your theories in the comments about how you think the pyramids were built. For more useful information, watch other videos.